Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the front line with Joe and Joe. Joe Pasillo, and once more, let's go into the breach. Barack Obama sickens me. Okay. Now, I've said this for a long time, and the reason why, though, I want to be clear, is not necessarily because I disagree with him, although I do. Not necessarily because I think under the facade he's a hard leftist. He's not a liberal. Hubert Humphrey was a liberal. Walter Mondale was a liberal. Barack Obama is a hard leftist. It's not that. It's just that he thinks he's so smart. He thinks that guys like me and people like you don't see through his nonsense, his lies, his danger, because he is dangerous. Free speech is under assault, and everybody better get it through their head. Free speech will be taken away from you in the name of misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, quackery. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's hear what he has to say.
I'm convinced that right now, one of the biggest impediments to doing all of this, indeed, one of the big reasons for democracy's weakening, is the profound change taking place in how we communicate and consume information.
How I communicate and consume information is none of your business. What part of the First Amendment don't you understand, Barry? What part? The right to the free exercise of my religion, the right to free speech, the right to free association. You and your leftist buddies have nothing to do with that. Nothing whatsoever. I could say what I want. But remember something. Let's say I turn around and say, but I can say what I want as long as I'm not inciting violence. We're going to get into that a little bit because that's why they're redefining what speech is. Because now some speech obviously is violence. Just go ask an average so-called transgender person. If you misgender them, you've committed an act of violence. And the last time I checked, you go to jail for committing an act of violence. Let's listen to more Barry Obama.
For more and more of us, search and social media platforms aren't just our window into the internet. They serve as our primary source of news and information. No one tells us that the window is blurred.
Nowhere is the window more blurred than the mainstream media. There's no objectivity, and stop trying to lie your way out of it, Barry, to say that there is, okay? Because there's not. Joy Reid blurs all the time. So does everybody else on MSNBC and CNN. It's just your filter that causes the blurring, and that's why you don't have a problem with it. When it's someone else's filter that you say causes this blurring, well, then it's an issue, because then democracy is weakened. No, democracy, okay, the God you worship, democracy, okay, is weakened by people like you. That's who weakens democracy.
Subject to unseen distortions and subtle manipulations. Always
Manipulations like everything that goes on at CNN, MSNBC, the New York Times, the LA Times, the Washington Post, and the rest of it. That's all it's been, is manipulation. All you have to look at is Russiagate and Donald Trump and all the lies that the media told about that. If you want to see media distortions and manipulations, Barry.
See is a constant feed of content where
constant feed of content, just like you get on the 24-hour news cycle on cable news stations that you value so much. So don't criticize people for getting their news from Twitter or other news sources that post on Twitter, except if you're the New York Post in 2020 and you have a report on Hunter Biden's laptop. Then, of course, that's not allowed. But listen, those on the left like you listen, you're just scrolling in different spots. So don't accuse us of something or criticize us for something you yourself are doing.
Useful, factual information and happy diversions and cat videos flow alongside lies, conspiracy theories.
Conspiracy theory is a phrase that was made up by the CIA to shut any opposition to what the CIA was doing. And this goes back 60 or 70 years. Let's get that straight.
Junk science, quackery.
Junk science and quackery is medical scientists, also known as doctors, okay, who disagree with the narrative that was put forth over the last couple years by medical scientists and doctors, the real quacks, okay, that Barry Obama agrees with. So if you're a doctor and you put in your time and you went to school and you did your internship and you did all residency and all that stuff, okay, if you disagree with the doctors that Barry Obama agrees with, then you're a quack. Doesn't matter if you went to Harvard or Yale or Stanford, where he's, interestingly enough, giving this speech. Now, by the way, this speech was a while ago, but I wanted to play it because I came across it because free speech is under attack.
White supremacists, racist tracks.
Right, because if you post something about immigration, you're racist. Of course, you're a white supremacist. So that's the way you put the kibosh on free speech having to do with immigration or foreign workers that are taking our jobs. Those are legitimate conversations. But if you have those conversations on Twitter or anyplace else, then of course you're a white supremacist and you're a racist, according to Barry Obama.
Misogynist screeds.
Against abortion. There you go. If you're against abortion and you post things that are against abortion, you're a misogynist. I don't know how that plays into women like Abby Johnson and others, Lila Rose, who are opposed to abortion, how they're misogynist, but that's the pretzel logic of Barry Obama.
And over time, we lose our capacity to distinguish.
No, we distinguish well. That's why we're on social media, because we've distinguished and determined that the mainstream media are the ones who are the liars and the conspiracy theorists, because they call us all a whole bunch of names. Let's just call us a basket of deplorables.
Between fact, opinion, and wholesale fiction.
Kind of like what Adam Schiff did as the head of the House Intelligence Committee during the Russiagate hearings, where he said he had information and he knew well everything that was going on, and he had evidence, which all turned out to be fiction, Barry.
Tech platforms need to accept that they play a unique role in how we as a people and people around the world are consuming information, and that
I want to consume the information that I want to consume, and I want to discard the information that I want to discard. And the social media platforms need to be a free marketplace of ideas, period, exclamation point.
their decisions have an impact on every aspect of society. With that power comes accountability.
That means if you don't put the kibosh on conservative speech or basically anti-leftist speech, you will be held accountable by the federal government. That's what that says.
And in democracies like ours, at least, the need for some democratic oversight.
Democratic oversight means that the government is going to step in and they are going to restrict your right to express yourself freely, as guaranteed and protected by the First Amendment to the United States Constitution.
As citizens, we have to take it upon ourselves to become better consumers of news.
We're doing that. That's what we're doing, Barry. We don't want CNN. We don't want NBC. We don't want the New York Times. We don't want the LA Times. We don't want the Washington Post, Time, and Newsweek telling us what to believe. We're being good citizens because we're seeking the truth. We're seeking information in places that you and your buddies that you have your cocktail parties with, sipping on Grey Goose and eating foie gras, where you and your buddies are not in control. And that's what you can't stand, because one more time, as I started this video, you are a hard leftist.
Looking at sources, thinking before we share, and teaching our kids to become critical thinkers who know how to evaluate sources and separate.
Okay, I've had enough of him. I can't really take him much more, because the bottom line is this. I'm going to teach my son exactly everything that Barack Obama just said. The difference is what he's doing is he's projecting. He's thinking that I don't teach my son how to be a critical thinker. Barack Obama is into critical thinking when it's those who he wants to oppose. He wants critical thinking aimed at them, but never at him. His lies, his deceit, his subtle distortions, things he's been doing since, I don't know, ever since he entered the public scene. So let's get it straight. What he just said, now this was at Stanford back in 2021, but I wanted to play it for you because it speaks to everything that's going on now. And everybody needs to be aware of it. This is, if you want to, the first inroad to tyranny is to prevent those in society from speaking freely to one another. That's what Twitter, at least ostensibly right now, is allowing us to do. And what YouTube and Facebook and others are not allowing us to do, which is to speak in this free marketplace of ideas, let our ideas be known, criticize people like Barry Obama, criticize people like Hillary, criticize people like Justin Trudeau, okay? That's what they're trying to do with setting up these misinformation and disinformation boards that are nothing but censors. Let's call them what they are. They're not going to call them censors because censors sound like the thing that they're against. But that's what they are. How about we just let the chips fall where they may, Barry? Because let me explain something to you. For all your nonsense that people like me incite violence, the left has incited violence. And the thing is, that's a demonstrative. You could back that statement up that I just made because all you got to do is look at 2021, or excuse me, 2020, where BLM and Antifa were burning down cities at the behest of the left. That Steve Scalise got shot because of the rhetoric of a Bernie Sanders, and one of his supporters went to a baseball field and shot, Steve Scalise and others. That Chuck Schumer, a sitting United States Senator on the steps of the Supreme Court, threatened 2 Supreme Court justices, okay? And not long after that, one of the people who he incited violence, or who he encouraged to be violent, took his message to heart and was arrested on a street where Brett Kavanaugh lives. And he had the tools by which he was going to break into Brett Kavanaugh's house and possibly murder Brett Kavanaugh and his family. Who's spreading the lies? Barack Obama. Who's spreading the misinformation, disinformation? Who's spreading the hate? Who's inciting violence? You. You and people like you. And that you want to take away my right to free speech? You hate Elon Musk because Elon Musk took away that one little sliver of social media. And Twitter's small compared to Google, YouTube, and Facebook. But my prediction is that Twitter is going to grow because people who value free speech are going to want to go there, are going to want to, or are not going to be restricted, at least mostly right now. Okay. And that's what you can't stand that Elon Musk did. He gave somebody like me something that people like you want to take away, which is protection from my First Amendment right to speak freely. That's the bottom line, Barry. And that's what you can't stand. Remember, follow Joe and I on YouTube for now at the Front Line with Joe and Joe, and on Twitter @WithJoeandJoe, @WithJoeandJoe. Follow us there. We'll talk to you soon.